Hi, this is Sally, and welcome to Reclaiming Pride, LGBT plus survivors of narcissistic abuse. Before we start, there is a trigger warning. The episodes of this podcast may at times refer to domestic violence, emotional, financial, and sexual abuse. To begin, as always, I'd like us to start with a one-word feelings check, and that literally means what is one word that you would say describes how you are feeling in this moment. Take a moment to think about that. Not how people around you are feeling, or the people you might be taking care of are feeling, but how are you feeling in one word in this moment? This week, we'll be looking at why the narcissist always seems so bored by us and the world around them. This can be extremely hurtful, particularly when we've bent ourselves into a pretzel trying to make the narcissist happy and feel loved and make their world feel comfortable. Narcissistic boredom is a specific manifestation of boredom, often associated with individuals with narcissistic personality disorder. So what I mean by that is it's not your regular common or garden boredom that everybody experiences. It's for a certain reason, and it's a certain kind of boredom. And it is completely pathological and pervasive. It involves a constant sense of dissatisfaction stemming from a perceived lack of stimulation and or attention. So in other words, if they're not constantly stimulated, or if they don't constantly have the attention of everybody in the room, even if it's just one other person, then boredom very, very quickly sets in. I remember experiencing that my ex would seem to be in a constant state of boredom and or disappointment with me, no matter what, unless we were actually doing something that she wanted to do. If others didn't want to do the thing that she was doing, she would become extremely angry that we weren't enjoying it as much as her, and she would often rage about it, and often in public. It could even mean something like, we were all at a theme park and she wanted to go on a risky ride, but some people may not have wanted to go on it, and then there would be a huge problem. Have you ever experienced the following, particularly when you're talking about something important or emotional with the narcissist? Have they sighed, looked at their watch or phone, walked away, or literally cut you off mid-word and mid-sentence and start talking about something completely unrelated? It almost feels like they're doing it on purpose because it is so unrelated, and there was a purposeful lack of segue. When I say you were talking about something important, I mean really important. We could be talking about a medical condition that I had. We could have been talking about the death of my mother, and these things would literally happen. Or even something less urgent, like a memory or an experience that was not hers. So if you're talking about anything that's not to do with the narcissist and it's taking up any amount of time that is deemed inappropriate to them, they will literally switch off right in front of you and make it very obvious that they're doing so. Another thing that you may have experienced is they will often claim that you interrupt them and that you do not listen. The fact is that they constantly interrupt you or bring whatever conversation you're having right back to them. They never listen to you deeply because they actually don't possess the empathy in order to do that. The only time they ever seem very interested is if it's to gain knowledge about something vulnerable about a person that they can then throw back in their face. This is a very common tactic with narcissists. They'll be completely keyed into anything like that you're saying. It's almost like they can smell it, and then they will just throw it back at you later. They will definitely store that information. Worse still, they might claim that you have a serious listening issue or even a mental illness that prevents you from listening to them. This was what my ex tried to project onto me very often. The fact is, she would have been talking about herself for over 90 minutes, for example, on a Saturday morning when we had plans to go out. She would stop everything and go on, uninterrupted. This talk, if you want to call it that, would also include abusive things said about me or other people who were in the room. I was to remain silent throughout her diatribe. If I tried to add anything, if I tried to interject, even to agree at some points, I would be blamed for being self-absorbed or trying to bring it back to me, quote unquote. I would also be blamed for being secretive. In other words, not sharing anything about myself or my side of an argument or a conversation. The fact was, I couldn't. And I was also too afraid to do so. So you are hearing me right. The person doesn't let you get a word in edgeways and then blames you for not saying anything? Have you been cheated on by your narcissistic partner? So we know that narcissists are more likely to be cheaters due to this behavior. Narcissists will often put their world at great risk. The next shiny object that they see is so compelling, and the narcissist's lack of empathy is so vast that they don't think about what their indiscretion costs other people, leaving the person they're in a relationship with feeling as if their relationship is never enough. The boredom again. It can also leave you in a great amount of debt. So, for example, my ex couldn't hold down a job for an extended period of time and yet would still get into schemes and have kind of harebrained ideas for companies and new ventures, but she would use my money to do it or use my information to open up credit cards to pay for this. Once the relationship was over, my ex left me with almost $20,000 worth of debt, which she simply left behind. She simply walked away from it. Narcissistic boredom is costly, is what I'm saying, and mostly to you. In the love bombing stage, which is the early stage of the narcissistic abuse cycle at the beginning of a situationship, the narcissist believed that you would bring purpose into their life. They observed your vibrant energy and enthusiasm, desiring to share in that energy. Don't get me wrong, people often say that narcissists and abusers pick weak people who don't have much going on. I can't stress enough how this is the exact opposite with a narcissist. They chose you because you were vibrant, you had everything that they wanted. And what they will systematically try and do is steal it from you and break you down. So something in their psyche thinks that they can become what it is that you have, when clearly that's not possible. But it's kind of all part of their disorder that they think that by possessing you, they can also possess the traits that you have. However, engaging with a narcissist does reveal a troubling truth. While initially appealing and very charismatic, their perpetual discontent prevents them from finding joy or satisfaction in anything. They habitually find fault and perceive inadequacies in everything. This is another reason why they can't hold down a job as well. And it can leave you and others around them feeling drained and unable to enjoy even the most pleasurable moments. Their constant negativity acts as a dampener, sapping the joy from your experiences and leaving you unable to fully engage in life's pleasures. Oh, and to top it all off, they will likely accuse you of being a negative person. You are not. You are just deflated and depressed by their abusive behavior, and therefore, no matter how hard you try eventually, you are perpetually down, always waiting for the other shoe to drop. And there's only so much that you can hide that or put it to the back of your mind before it's pretty obvious that that's what's going on for you because you're in this person's company. Your natural reaction to abuse will become the thing they punish you for further. Yes, you heard that right. Your reaction to their abuse, you'll be punished for that as well. The biggest irony here is that narcissists really are actually really boring people. That's the reason they have to pretend to be something that they're not. They can't even stand themselves. Anyone can be bored or boring at any time, and don't get me wrong, but the difference between us and people with narcissistic personality disorder is that we work on ourselves to improve, and we don't project our issues constantly onto others and call them boring habitually. Narcissists are boring. They are uninteresting and unexciting. They are dull, tedious, and repetitious. Not only that, but they're lacking in variety and interest. When you first meet the narcissist, you could be fooled into believing that you are around a fun-loving and interesting person. I know I was. They are very good at providing you with short bursts of amusement and enjoyment, and kind of these, random, spontaneous things that they'll do actually seem really romantic at the beginning. But it never lasts long. They just tell you what you want to hear or show you what they think you want to see, but it's never what they are actually about. The bottom line is that narcissists can't really engage with much at all. They're a void covered by a mask or what we call false self that is temporarily filled with newness, but once that newness wears off, anything will become boring to them. Once someone or something actually does become boring, they need something else to fill the void. They can't really get into things very much or very deeply in order to stay engaged with those things. Another thing is that narcissists will often exhibit a heightened sensitivity to rewards, meaning they're driven by the pursuit of dopamine highs associated with receiving any form of gratification. Conversely, individuals with a healthier psychological profile tend to demonstrate the ability to suppress immediate reward impulses in favor of pursuing long-term objectives, a characteristic commonly referred to as delayed gratification. So, in other words, narcissists have a problem with delayed gratification. So if they don't get what they want in the moment that they want it, then there will be a problem. That problem can manifest itself in a plethora of ways that we talk about on this podcast. Anything from stonewalling silence to physical violence to verbal and emotional abuse to throwing things to leaving to road rage to all kinds of things. But you will know about it if they don't get what they want when they want it. The narcissist's tendency towards seeking rewards and novelty not only leads to a quick boredom with new experiences, but also extends to new interpersonal connections. This reward-driven nature may reveal why narcissists frequently engage in impulsive and potentially hazardous behaviors such as substance abuse, risky sexual encounters, excessive spending, or overeating. Narcissists tend to prioritize immediate pleasure without adequately considering the consequences, if they do consider them at all. And normally the person who pays for that, whether it's with money or whether it's emotionally or mentally or with your stress load, will be you. So here's a quick outline, kind of a cheat sheet, for how narcissistic boredom works, along with some examples. So first of all, you've got the classic narcissistic constant need for stimulation. So narcissistic individuals typically crave constant attention, admiration, and excitement. So when they're not receiving the level of attention or stimulation they desire, they may feel bored and restless. It's as simple as that. So an example of this might be a narcissistic person might become bored at a social gathering if they're not the center of attention or if the conversation doesn't revolve around them. They might start to disengage or seek ways to draw attention back to themselves. And they will do that in any way possible. It could be that they're at a party. I remember this with my ex. It could be that they're at a party and they, drag you off to the bathroom because what they actually want to do is throw up. Because obviously you might be having conversations with other people, but, they can't have that. So they have to take you. If they can't be the center of attention, then you need to be the person that's focused on them. They need to get it somehow. The second one is grandiosity and entitlement. So narcissists often, as we know, have an inflated sense of self-importance, and are very entitled. They expect the world to revolve around them and might become bored when they feel that their needs and desires are not being prioritized, mostly immediately. So a narcissistic boss, for example, might become bored with a project that doesn't directly contribute to their personal success or their image as a leader. They might lose interest in tasks that don't serve their own agenda or boost their own ego. Next, there's the classic, a lack of empathy. So narcissistic individuals, as we know, typically have difficulty empathizing with other people, and they might struggle to find fulfillment in activities that don't directly benefit them. So an example of that is a narcissistic partner might become bored with spending time with their significant other if the focus is not solely on the narcissist. They might lose interest in activities and their partner enjoys, but if it doesn't align with their own preferences and what they enjoy, they will make it very obvious that they're bored to tears. The next is high sensation-seeking behavior. So some narcissists engage in high-risk or thrill-seeking behavior to alleviate feelings of boredom and satisfy their need for excitement and stimulation. So, for example, a narcissistic individual might engage in reckless driving, substance abuse to combat feelings of boredom and emptiness. These sorts of behaviors provide a temporary thrill, but can also lead to negative consequences. And the interesting thing about this, if you've ever been in an intimate relationship with a narcissist, and this happened with me as well with my ex, is that the person that they have sold you, the person that they wish to be but aren't, is completely anathema to who's really underneath. So they'll do these bizarre, random things, and it's usually during a period of silent treatment when they're kind of off on their own. and then they'll tell you about it in great detail afterwards, and it will seem completely out of character. But yeah, they'll do things like that, and it is very bizarre. And it's also a way of both attention seeking and sensation seeking. Next, you've got manipulative strategies. So as we know, narcissists might use boredom as a manipulative tactic to regain control or elicit attention from other people. They might intentionally create a drama or chaos to alleviate their boredom or assert their dominance. So, for example, you could be at a friend's house and be having a really pleasant dinner, and all of a sudden it becomes about the narcissist holding everybody at the table hostage while they just berate another person. It could be an adult or a child, and it will go on and on and on, and everybody around the table will be in fear of stopping the narcissist because, well, you know what happens after that. Overall, narcissistic boredom stems from a combination of factors, including a constant need for stimulation, grandiosity, a lack of empathy, and manipulative tendencies. It can manifest in various ways and often leads to disruptive and abusive behavior in individuals with narcissistic traits or with full-blown narcissistic personality disorder. So I hope that may have cleared a few things up for you regarding narcissistic boredom. If you've ever been on the receiving end of it, it's hurtful, it's crazy making, and over time, like with everything else to do with the narcissist, it basically erodes your sense of self-worth and your own sense of validation. So I hope listening to this today may have provided you with some validation. Please note, this podcast is not intended to replace professional therapy or counselling. It serves as a supplementary resource for support and encouragement. Listeners, you are encouraged to seek professional help if needed. I did, and it still works for me today. Stay tuned, and I look forward to healing with you again next time. Bye-bye.